Welcome to episode 90 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies, plus tips, apps, and gear. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my co-host, Warren Sklar, is here. How you doing, Warren?
I am good. How you doing?
Oh, we're doing good. We're actually having some fun here, but before, we'll tell you what we're doing in just a second. But I want to introduce my guest this week. Our guest this week is Mr. Guy Serle from the MyMac.com podcast. How you doing, Guy?
I'm doing just peachy there, Dave. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. We just actually talked to you yesterday doing Back to the
Yeah,
Future.
we did.
Go! We are doing something a little different here. For those of you who are watching live, we are streaming live onto YouTube using Zoom, and it's actually working really well here. So I'm hoping we get some watchers here and check out everything we're going to be talking about today, because, oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about. Including some new iPads, iOS 13.4. There's all kinds of news, and I'm going to try not to talk too much about the COVID-19 coronavirus, but unfortunately,
it's all related. It's
all related, and it's sadly to say that it's been obviously in all of our minds, and my heart goes out to everybody that's struggling through with this illness. But let's hope everybody is safe and home. And I'm working from home, so is Warren, and so is Guy, and we're all getting used to that because homebound working is interesting. I could definitely tell you that.
I'm in quarantine. Well, I'm working from home. Whether I'm actually ever going to go back to work,
I don't think you have a choice. Yeah,
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going back at this point. So who knows?
You got like a Star Trek background there, Warren?
Did he change his background again?
Yeah, that's like the old. That's the old Windows XP desktop, I think. Ding,
all right.
Ding,
let's not get distracted. I knew this was going to happen.
All right. Sorry
anyway,
about that.
Let's get started. We had some news stories I wanted to talk about. We did last week. We recorded the show a little later, so it was just right after this was announced. But Apple did announce that the Worldwide Developers Conference (WWDC) 2020 will be in June as planned, but it will be an online experience linked to 9 to 5 Mac. And Apple announced it coming in June. They haven't given an exact date as of yet, because it was usually the first week in June. And it will be an online event. They'll preview the future of iOS, iPadOS, macOS, watchOS, tvOS. They will also probably release developer betas at that time, which is most likely going to be iOS 14 and iPadOS 14. And I'm just interested to see how this is going to go, because I'd like to see, first off, how much they're going to charge for it. Developers tend to have to pay about $2,500, something like that. Warren, what did you think of this?
The one thing I heard is they didn't really give a full time frame. So one of the podcasts I listened to, I forget who it is, but
MyMac.com podcast.
It wasn't that one.
No, but sorry, it wasn't that one.
It was today, and they said that it is quite possible. It might not be a week event. It might be
like a few days.
Could be a month.
Oh, a month.
Yeah,
which it could be.
Who knows?
It's not cost prohibitive for doing that.
There's no, exactly. So there's no time frame on it. They could, do things, during the month. They could, it could be a whole different format. So our mind just thinks, you got to cram it all in a week, but now you don't. So you never know how it's going to run that way. Somebody did say if you log into the developer portal, you'll get a little more information. I haven't done that yet, so maybe I'll do that while we're talking and see if they did anything posting on that.
And Guy, I did. Oh, you're done. I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
Guy, I dare ask, what do you think of this?
What choice did they have?
Yeah,
really?
They didn't have much choice.
Even though the conference is 2 months out, we have no idea how long all of this is going to last. They're starting to see some reinfection rates over in areas where originally they thought it was all contained. So,
right.
We need to kind of start looking at this in the long haul instead of, well, how quickly can we all get back to doing the stuff that we normally like to do? And, you may as well just put that out of your mind right now, because this is going to be a while.
Right.
So, Apple has spent the last 20 years basically telling people we're the company that you should trust. We're the company that is going to try to give you the best shake possible.
Right.
Whether people agree with that assessment or not is completely doesn't matter. But Apple is the kind of company that couldn't just say, okay, well, it's all done now, and we're going to have 5,000 of our closest friends in a small, cramped auditorium because
that wasn't going to
work. It wasn't going to fly.
No.
Now, if they really, really, really wanted to get on top of this and show that it's not just about the money, they would basically open this entire thing up to anyone who wants to go and watch it. They have the bandwidth to do so. So, instead of it being about the money, just, you can have special portals for people that are, true developers or have paid and want access to, certain people and presentations beyond just being able to watch it while it goes live. And just open it up and let everybody watch it. What's the big deal? It doesn't really cost them anything.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I'm sure they'll have the keynote speech will be streamed, obviously. That's the first thing that everybody watches. So it's going to be an empty auditorium, I would venture to say. So,
and I just checked, there's nothing, the website's not showing anything.
Yeah, nothing's posted.
Was out there. So, yeah, well, I guess we'll find out in coming weeks, right?
Yeah, we sure will. Next story I wanted to talk about was Apple is planning to add updates to Pages, Numbers, and Keynote apps to take advantage of the trackpad support on iPads, which I can't wait because I'm excited to talk about here in a little bit. Apple today, they announced a couple of days ago they're going to do a full update of the productivity suite, which is smart, and will be updated to take advantage of the trackpad support, which is huge. I mean, being able to write, edit, and with editing text is going to be a breeze in Pages. Saw the demonstrations, a smart thing, and that just shows you that Apple is very solid with these three apps, don't you think, Warren?
Yeah, I mean they're obviously kind of making more touch centric. More mouse and trackpad centric. It is already touch centric, and I don't think there'll be much other changes. To be honest with you, I think it's just going to be more just places where you could click and basically the copy and paste is going to be better probably, and just text select and things like that. But
yeah.
As Guy has said before too, and he has, rightly so, that iOS is a touch-centric operating system. It's built on touch, so they have to revert. They have to go the other way to mouse support, and I'll talk about that too because I played around with it a little bit too.
Yep, I just installed it myself here. So,
yep, and then whereas everything else went from mouse centric to touch, and it's
trying to add touch.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be that much. I don't think the challenge is any worse or better for either one. It's just something they got to do. So
yeah. Guy, what do you think?
Well, I mean, it's not a huge surprise. These are Apple's, key. I almost said key ship, but that makes absolutely no sense. These are the three apps that they kind of pushed into iOS from the very, very beginning. As well, we don't have Microsoft Office, but we've got Pages, Numbers, and Keynotes. And what else do you need when you're dealing with something on a small screen? One of the things that we were talking about this last night is Microsoft trying to go from a desktop interface to a touch interface is much harder than starting from a touch interface and going to a more desktop like interface. I think the way that Apple is doing it by adding certain difference, number one, it's not the little arrow cursor that everyone is used to seeing. It's still going to be a little round cursor that it was before. The difference is when it reaches certain areas for selecting text or pushing a button or what have you, the actual cursor changes shapes and changes functionality, and that's freaking awesome. That's not something that you just kind of wake up in the middle of the night and go, you know what would be really cool. This is something that's probably been pushed around at Apple for the next part of the iPad OS for quite some time.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So, next story I want to talk about is Apple's podcast app features some coronavirus and stay-at-home content. I thought this was just in time with a lot of stuff being talked about right now. Because of the outbreak, a lot of areas, a lot of people are stuck at homes. And more reason why I brought up this story was the fact that what Apple's really done well with the podcast app and basically the way they separated the apps in general with music and podcasts and TV. They now have a stay informed section for the coronavirus for podcast app, and it's both on the Mac and iOS. Informative updates from all the news providers. They basically they curated it all into one place, and they've been doing that with music too, which I was been pretty psyched about with their playlists. But there's a lot of good sources here, and you don't have to go searching for it. And they're not doing this just for this topic, but for others. But I think I'm starting to see more and more they're going to really focus more on podcasts. So what do you think, Guy?
Yeah, it would be about time. Podcasting really kind of started with iTunes and iPods,
right?
Hence the name for the format. But after a while, it seemed like Apple was just kind of like, okay, been there, done that. They're moving on to other things. And now that they've split up, for better or for worse, iTunes into different little pockets of content that people want to have, it just seems like, okay, well, if you're actually insisting on doing this, well, then you can have little curated sections with a tighter focus on things that either you or the person that's downloading podcasts want to hear. Almost like podcast playlists. Like if you like this, then you might like this, and this, which is something they've also been doing. So, you're gonna have to kind of wait and see where they go with it. One of the things that I've found recently, I'm having trouble getting reliable, factual, non-biased news from most of the mainstream media. CNN and Fox and MSNBC. It seems like all three of them have gone into full-blown panic mode, and they're more interested in scoring points against someone else than they are in actually going, okay, well, this is what's going on. This is what you need to know. So if Apple can curate the best of what's out there into something that's going to make a little more sense, then you know what? I'll throw CNN into the wind and just stick with whatever Apple's going to give me.
Absolutely. Warren, what do you think?
Yeah, well, this was just announced not too long ago, so I hadn't had a chance to look, but I'm looking at it now, and what they're doing is curating. They're curating podcasts from other sources. So they do have CNN as one of their curated lists, and they do have NPR, and they do have BBC and Washington Post, ABC News, Economist, and Radio.com. So there's they're basically taking what they consider to be reputable sites and sources and putting them up there in a list. As far as everybody competing for attention, I mean, that's life and that's life. But, I think most places know that, it doesn't matter what channel you're on at this point. It's all the same news right now. It's not like, ABC is not going to get a
coronavirus exclusive.
Exactly. No. That's where it's going. They're not going to get an exclusive that it's not like that. The days aren't like that. And there's been, I don't want to get political, and I'm not, but there's been but I'll say there's been a lot less political talk than normal, and I think there's some kind of camaraderie going on between the legitimate news sources, basically kind of saying, we got to do this together. And I don't I think that this is just one of those times in history that's going to happen. And so anyways, with the podcast, it's basically that's all it is. It's basically what Apple considers to be a good source of information and not junk.
Absolutely. All right. Next story I want to talk about was Netflix reduced streaming video quality in Europe to lower data usage and ease strain on the broadband networks. The European Union had put a request in earlier today. This actually is, as we record this today, they put a request in to Netflix if you could possibly lower your streaming video quality in Europe to ease the network strain from the millions of people that are working from home. Well, they're doing that here too. So, but according to the BBC, Netflix reduced its video quality in Europe. It's going to do it for the next 30 days as a compliance. They're being a good neighbor, more or less, and so that will change the data consumption about 25%. Wow, that's huge. But the viewers will probably still be satisfied with the picture quality. Warren, what do you think of this?
Yeah, my only thought is anybody who complains is a real wanker.
Yeah, that's right.
So you don't want to be that one person who's like going to complain about it publicly. At this point.
Always is.
Yeah, well, I don't think that will fare well for whoever's going to complain about it. I think most people are just going to say, we'll survive with our slightly less HD quality version of whatever it is we're watching. Until it's over.
Yeah. Guy, what do you think?
Yeah, at a time when, here's the thing. When most people are in their offices, the company that they work for has the pipes to go to, whoever it is that's their main broadband provider,
right,
and get their stuff out back and forth. But then once people are at home and trying to do all the same stuff, it's like, you're choking on, with data caps and all the rest of that. Because I know that the way that they kind of regulate internet usage in the EU is much different than it is here. So if Netflix can, reduce the amount of bandwidth that they're using for all the people that apparently aren't working from home but are just watching movies, and leave a little more space for those that are working from home. Okay, hey, why not? So you won't get Sharknado in 4K. Get over it.
All right. Let's get to more of a techie stories here. Apple did seed all the betas. Specific, I just wanted to throw this in the news that they seeded watchOS 6.2. It's the Golden Master to developers. Of course, if those of you who don't know what Golden Master means, that basically means it's the final beta before it's going to be really released, and it's probably the final version to be released.
More or less, yeah.
And it says, you go through the same proper installations and gives all the steps. And looks like it's including some features, including, I think, in-app purchases with the Apple Watch apps, which I really haven't dabbled in much, but with apps. But some issues with bugs and this and that, and irregular heart rhythm notifications and all that fun stuff. Warren, did you install on your watch? I know you did.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, I put the golden child on my watch.
Yep.
So it's I haven't noticed a difference, and I haven't played with the in-app purchases on the watch. I guess I could try it, but I wouldn't know what to buy.
It'd probably be bored everybody if you were doing that while we were talking here, but
yeah,
I really haven't. Yeah, I haven't. I mean, they announced that in 6.0, so I mean, it was. Everybody was excited about it for a moment, and then you don't hear much about it.
Yeah, I mean, you could get the App Store on the watch, and unfortunately, there's still not that many. There's not that many apps that you need to put on the watch, other than the ones that we all put on since Series 1 or 0 that we just kind of transferred on to the new watches for us.
Yep. Guy, you just got a new Apple Watch not too long ago, didn't you? The Series 4 or 5?
Yeah, I have a Series 5. Mostly just because they offered me a pretty good trade-in on the Series 2 that I had. Yep. I like it. I have not gone to any of the betas for it. It's still too new, and I don't want to break it. So staying away from.
You won't even swim with it.
No, I will not. It's like, well, I might just to watch that first little boop 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 as it pumps the water out, but yeah, I don't want to lose my new watch.
Yeah.
That would be a bad thing.
Then the last story I want to talk about, because we'll be talking about a lot more with the new iPad Pro. Logitech debuted trackpad keyboards for their 10.2-inch iPad and the 10.5-inch iPad Air. They announced that today, and it's going to get actually released next week, which is a lot sooner than the other keyboard, which won't be until May, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it does look like a decent little model, and I can't imagine it'd be too bad for the lower priced iPads, the iPad and the iPad Air. It's $149.95 in the US, and it has keyboard and touchpad. Warren, what do you think on this?
Yeah, it's gonna come out probably next Tuesday, we think, right?
Yeah, they said March 24th, and $149.95 is going to be the price.
What is it for the? What is that? The Logitech one?
Yeah, Logitech.
Yeah, it looks good. I'm just looking at the link. Yeah,
there's not much to say about it other than I just wanted to make sure we.
Yep, there it is.
There it is. It's a Logitech.
And Guy, you the same way. You see it. There it is. And
well, yeah, but I see. I'm still on a first gen iPad Pro, and so I'm not even sure if I'm going to bother getting any kind of keyboard with a built-in trackpad unless I upgrade to a newer one, because I just don't see the point.
I agree.
A lot of the stuff that Apple is putting into the iPad OS that makes it cool to have a trackpad or a mouse or anything along those lines isn't going to work on my iPad anyway.
No,
actually, it won't.
We were wrong on that. No, the trackpad's going to work on your iPad.
It is going to work on the 2018.
Yeah, but it won't. It's still going to do all the whiz bang neato jump and bounce and X select, or is it just going to be like what it is now?
The trackpad
really not that big a deal.
The trackpad thing and the mouse thing will work on any iPad running 10 whatever
10.1.4 I think it is iPad OS.
Yep, it's just the keyboard that they're building for it is not going to work. So I think we told you otherwise the other day. We were wrong about that. Yeah. But so
I guess we're going to talk about the keypad or the keyboard later.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about the new stuff just a minute.
Okay,
right, but the trackpad features will work. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody does design something for your first gen 12.9.
Maybe like Bridge or something like that.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, so. All right, let's dig into the topic of this week, and boy, there's a lot to talk about. The new iPad Pro lineup was announced this week, and I'm kind of excited about it. I like to see all the new stuff that they've announced. Take our minds off of the things we've been thinking about lately. And I was glad Apple was able to do that. In fact, we weren't going to talk about it on this show, but you got a new MacBook Air and you got a new Mac Mini. So they've added some stuff that people are going to be excited about with the new stuff here. So, but the iPad Pro lineup was out there, and they also announced a new Magic Keyboard. We're going to talk about that as well. But let's start with the iPad Air, the iPad Pro, and what the newest stuff has added on there. I mean, the news release that Apple put out there was the big thing, and they're showing the picture of the iPad Pro that's suspended in air. It's not the keyboard doesn't have to be attached to it anymore, which is really cool. And then they've added a lot of new specs with the A12Z Bionic chip. We'll go into that a little bit. And some of the new things was the augmented reality AR stuff they've added, which was the different things with that. And they've got the Pro display, and then they got the 2-lens Pro cameras, which is the ultra wide and the zoom. I talked about it yesterday on Max the Future Go. Is just I'm not one that takes pictures with that.
Certainly not with something that big.
You put it in front of my.
That's the part that really just confused me.
This is the old iPad.
Now, if it was set up on the front and it was a camera that was going to be used for like what we're doing right here, this kind of thing, I could understand putting like a really, really nice lens on it so that you could do live casts and things along those lines.
Right.
But to put expensive freaking cameras and lenses on the back of a device that's anywhere from 10 to 13 inches, and you're just going to whip that out and, take a picture of your Aunt Alice or whatever, all right, everyone, you don't have to get too close together because this thing I'm taking a picture with is about 6 miles wide. So, this is why people use their phones for this kind of thing. Why would anyone take an iPad and use that kind of lens for taking pictures? Unless it's also, because I haven't read anything yet on its video capabilities. We know certain people.
No, it's going to have the 4K.
Okay, well, we know certain people that have setups. Shorter that will allow because he had it at MacStock.
Yeah, no, he had it at CES when I was there with his iPad Minis, one he likes. But him and I had a discussion about this last week on last week's show. That if this camera is going to have what he needs to get some really good quality video, he will probably switch because. If it's worth the investment to have the quality of this video and have an iPad, because the iPad is better in the fact of the screen. I mean, and especially when you're doing what he does.
If you use something like what is the main recording app that I use? I got it here. So I can't think of what it is. But it's the one that I use for Guy's Daily Drive. It's I can't. Damn it! I can't think of what it is.
Clips?
No, it's not Clips.
It'll come to.
Ignore me. Just talk to Warren. I'll be back.
So that was some of the other things. The Pro camera,
Filmic Pro.
Oh yeah, Filmic Pro. Yes.
Yeah.
They did add. I mean, this obviously will interest you, Guy, as well as the Pro Audio with studio quality mics that are built into it. It's going to have 5 studio quality mics built into it.
We'll see.
I'll be curious to see how the sound really is with that. But I would not be surprised that it does have good sound.
The sound of being skeptical in my voice.
Yeah. And they call it the breakthrough LiDAR scanner, which is enabled to capture.
Is it LiDAR or is it LiDAR?
LiDAR. Is it LiDAR or LiDAR? LiDAR, whichever it is. New depth framework for depth points for scanning
for
data.
AR.
For AR, yep. Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about the cameras and all that. I think that's what they're going for with the camera system and the LiDAR. Basically, it's going to be the vision is professionals, contractors, people who need to, architecture, things like that is basically going to be for that. It's going to be for people who go to, who come to your house to design things. I know we had our kitchen redone and somebody came with his iPad and showed us things, but now you're going to take the iPad, hold it up to your house, and you're going to see what your house is going to look like through it, which is going to be I think that's the vision of what they're going for with the augmented reality at that point. So, I don't think it's going to be for taking a picture of grandma and the family. I think eventually it's going to be taking pictures it's going to be for taking pictures of things that you need to kind of compare to the real world and see, what you can do with the real world.
True. And then trackpad support is now coming to iPad OS, and Warren, you've had it on your iPad for a few days now. I just installed it on my test iPad with using a Bluetooth mouse, but this is going to be it's pretty awesome. I mean, they changed it. It's you got the round we're gonna have a link in the show notes from when Craig Federighi actually did a demo on The Verge on how to do this and how the icon moves very.
It was a good demo.
Fluidly. It was a very good demo.
Yeah,
and was fluid. What's your thoughts about the trackpad so far? Did you use a trackpad or did you use a?
I don't have a trackpad.
I thought you used a mouse, right?
I use a mouse, but I have this Logitech mouse that has a the top is smooth and it acts as a trackpad. I discovered this today, which is I forget the model of the mouse, but so
it's kind of like what the Magic Mouse does. Yeah, Magic Mouse does exactly the same thing.
Which it supports.
It's like a Magic Mouse. It's got it. So basically, some of the gestures on the top of the mouse worked. Like if I took my 3 fingers on the mouse top
Right.
and swiped up, I got to the search screen, and if I swipe down, I got something else. Not all of them, because I think on the trackpad you could do close with the 4 fingers and
Right.
zoom in. That didn't work either. So it supports some of it, not all of it. Played around with the things I wanted to do. I opened up TeamViewer because that's what I wanted to use it for, to see
Sure.
how well you could operate an app within it, and it did okay. The mouse pointer in a TeamViewer window with Windows kind of pointed in the right direction, but it was still kind of clunky. But
Yeah.
when you're not in an app, it's nice. You could do almost everything you need to do while you're in there. Whether I'm gonna think that I'm gonna use it all the time, probably not. It's nice to have if you want to have it, but for most of what people do, I still think touch is going to be better for them. To be
Yeah.
honest with you.
And the good thing was when I went to install it, it was super simple compared to how they had it in the previous versions of iPad OS. Was very deep in accessibility. Now it's a
right,
literal
Bluetooth.
Bluetooth device. It popped right up. I mean, I just
Do you have a trackpad or?
No, I paired this mouse. You can see it on the camera here. This is the Logitech little portable mouse, and right. I just pushed the side button, and it already brought the iPad up to life. So it does have full functionality.
So there's I think when you get the trackpad, which we both don't have, there's additional options.
Yeah, I've got my trackpad. I mean, I've got my
for-
Magic Trackpad here. I just have to. It's paired to my Mac. So,
So when you pair it to that, you'll see, because under the mouse, there's only a few settings. The little turtle comes up with the
Right.
pointer speed,
Yep.
and then invert natural scrolling versus regular scrolling, and that's probably it. But with the trackpad, you get a couple more things in there. So I might go out and buy a trackpad. It's definitely cheaper than the $350.
Yeah, it is for sure. And then plus Bridge is coming out with, they have their trackpad keyboard, as well as they have a separate trackpad you can buy that would be an accessory to their previous gen the keyboard they had. So,
And that will probably work.
Yeah,
And
it
I'm
will
sure
work.
that's going to work with any keyboard. I don't think it has to pair with.
No, but I
keyboard.
mean the Magic Trackpad's a nice size to it. The trackpad that Bridge created that you can add, which is, I saw that at CES, and it was pretty cool. And I think you could do it as an add-on if you wanted to. So I wouldn't be surprised, because you gotta wonder now is did Apple Sherlock Bridge by creating this keyboard, Magic Keyboard. Well, we'll talk about the keyboard in just a minute here. We just talked about the updates to the Apple's iWork suite of apps, and that's going to come in handy with the mouse moving. And they also came out with the Pro accessories, which is the Magic Keyboard, which is a folio that suspends the iPad, from touching. So it's nice. It looks nice. Everybody was liking this, and it's a Cavalier hinge, allows smooth adjustments, view angle up to 130 degrees, and then it's portable, protective. Because I had the keyboard from before. I didn't like it because it, first off, I made a mistake one time of putting it in the seat back of a seat in the plane and left it in like a moron when the guy's getting into the aisle when he was going to sit, and of course it fell right off of the case and crashed it and crapped it. And I've talked about that before, but I'd be interesting to see how solid that is. It's still not a solid case. That's what I really like with having a solid case on the iPad. It does have a USB-C pass-through for charging, which is good, and that keeps this USB-C port on the iPad Pro free. So it's giving you a second USB-C port basically when you get it, and it complements the
but
touch
only
design.
if you get their Magic keyboard.
Right, this is the Magic Keyboard. Yeah.
This is a Magic Keyboard.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yep. So let's dig a little deeper into the iPad Pro. I mean, I was curious to see where we're at as far as the comparison, and is it going to be worth upgrading? I know, Guy, you don't have you have the older iPad, right? You have the iPad Air, you said.
No, I have a first gen iPad Pro.
Oh, the iPad Pro. Okay, you have the first gen. That's right. That's what this one is. Here I have as my test device. So I don't think that keyboard's going to work, would not work because it doesn't have that connector, because it's got to be that squared off.
Well, I mean, it has a smart connector, but they've moved the smart connector.
Right.
It can't have a home button, basically.
Right. It has to be Touch ID. It has to be Face ID, right?
Face ID, iPad will work.
So the 2018 model Pros, the only ones that'll work. There was a good comparison article on 9 to 5 Mac, and I wanted to kind of talk through it a little bit because it's interesting to see what they did with the chips here. So the 2020 model is going to have an 11-inch and a 12.9 inch, right? So you have the A12Z, the A12X. So that tells me there really isn't much a huge difference. Wouldn't you think, Warren? As far as processing,
as I said yesterday, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how it is once we see the performance of it. But it looks like they did make some changes to the space. When I saw the bottom end, it's now starting at 128 gigs, which was good. I mean, I could live with 128 gigs, honestly. 64 on the old models, that was a little tight. But I think 128, which is putting it at the base price at $799, is going to be decent for the 11-inch. So it goes all the way up to 1 terabyte, which is insane. The RAM, we talked about that yesterday too, is now up from 4 gigs to 6 gigs.
Right.
For the models here, so you have a 6 gig on the 11-inch, and then you have 6 gigs for the 12.9 inch. Now I guess on the 1 terabyte model, it did have 6 gigs on the old 2018.
So
if you got the 1 terabyte model, right?
Yeah, if you had the 1 terabyte model and spend like thousands of dollars on that one, it did include that. And of course, the difference really, as we talked about a few minutes ago, is this camera. I mean, the biggest change is the camera to that. Again, how important is the camera to you? That's really got to think about on an iPad. Is that going to be something important to you? So you go and look at it. There's a wide angle lens on the 2018 models, which is 12 megapixel, and then you have the 10 megapixel ultra wide, which is on the iPad Pro. Do you think that's going to be important? What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Guy.
Okay.
No, go ahead. I have to think about that.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I love the current one. I have the 2018 11-inch Pro. I was lucky enough to get a 256 gig model for like cheap. Best Buy had some error in pricing that I took advantage of, and the cameras on an iPad never excited me at all. I never use them. And the faster processor, I think the iPad I have now is really fast. I don't know how much faster it's going to get. For what I use it for, it does not need to be faster. The only thing I would at this point, the only thing that would change my mind is if they did something with the LiDAR that did something crazy that I would have to have, and I can't think of what that would be. So
I mean that's the thing. Is that part of it important too? Well, we'll get to the video stuff in a minute.
So the processor speed definitely not. The camera definitely not.
So then you're going to look at the 4K video capabilities. It records at 24, 30, and 60 frames a second. Okay, the old model.
All 3 for 4K.
Yeah, 30, and all 4 do 4K video. The only difference is the new model has now slower 24 FPS as opposed to starting at 30. And is that a difference? I don't.
Well,
think
yeah,
so.
24 frames per second is considered cinema quality.
Okay, and when you go to 30 and 60?
Well, 30 and 60 have a tendency. I'm not really sure how to explain it.
No.
You have to remember that the human eye can't discern, that many frames per second. So when you're looking at an image, like when you're playing a video game and that video game is going by at 120 frames a second, well, you're not seeing 120 frames a second on that entire screen. You're seeing subtle changes in the areas that you are focused on as compared to the overall screen. And it's not that everything isn't changing all at the same time, but you literally cannot look at an image that is changing 120 times a second and be able to discern, one kind of like it would be like saying it's the difference between 60 frames a second and 180 frames a second. You literally probably couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah.
But having said that, 24 frames a second is what you typically see when you go into a movie theater. That's the frame rate that I think most studios have kind of over the years settled on as being okay. Well, this is the frame rate that we're going to offer to our paying customers when they sit down to see a movie.
Yeah.
As far as the I mean, still being on a first gen iPad Pro.
Yep.
If I was going to update tomorrow, I would probably go with a 512 12.9 iPad Pro.
Okay.
And that's, because I buy, just like when I buy new computers or I buy a phone, I'm still on an iPhone 8. I'm still on this first gen iPad Pro. I had a second gen watch. I have a 2013 MacBook Pro because if I can't get a huge amount of gain in production, then I don't see the point in spending the money for it.
Yeah, I agree.
That's going to be, if you buy that, you're spending as much as a MacBook Pro at that point.
Yeah,
so,
you are. All right,
pretty much.
Whether it's worth it to you or not.
Let's just go through this real quick. Slow-mo video is only much of a difference. I don't think people are really going to care much. Go from 120 or 240. Yeah, doing the slow fees. The flash is bright true tone flash, which is quad LED on the old one. I don't think you'll see much difference on that, so I'm not going to really go much on that. Now, in comparison to the display size and the resolution, the 11-inch between the 2020 and the 2018, exactly the same. The 2020 12.9-inch, exactly the same. So as far as the display goes, there's no difference. They're exactly the same. So if you go into size, weight, and battery life, you're still getting exactly the same with that too. I mean, the weight is slightly different, not by much.
And it's probably the cameras is what made the
camera
difference.
just probably just add just a smidge of that.
A couple of milligrams.
Yeah. So then, go ahead.
What it was is the last gen iPad Pros were nearly perfect. I mean, there's not a lot of things you could do this year to change it, and that's why the big star to show is this keyboard trackpad thing. Yeah, with the software. But I mean, it's a hard device to improve on at this point.
It really is. It really is. And then you look at pricing. The pricing at the base price of the 2011 64 gig was $799. Now it's $799. You got a 128, which at least they've doubled the space, and that part is a bit of a value. Is it a game changer? You can think about, do you want to upgrade from 2018 to 2020? I don't think twice. And then of course you add $150 if you want the cellular version. And the price goes all the way up if you want to max out a 2020 12.9-inch iPad Pro with 1 terabyte Wi-Fi and cellular. It's actually cheaper than it was the 2018. $1649 is at the highest price for the 2020 original pricing. So with that, before we go into the keyboard part of it, if you have a 2018 now, Warren, we talked about this. Would you upgrade?
I would not. If I did not have an iPad Pro at this point in time, I would definitely consider buying the 2020. No doubt. But as of right now, I'm not burning. I'm not burning. I don't have the FOMO yet of 2020.
Yeah. So, all right. So then let's talk a little bit about the Magic Keyboard. One of the major aspects of that one was that it does come in with the built-in trackpad, and it does have this. It suspends the iPad up, so it does look cool.
It looks so freaking cool.
Everybody's been drooling over the pictures everybody's showing of that.
Oh my god!
And then the trackpad, like we talked about with Craig Federici did the video showing how the trackpad works. Looked pretty cool. But again, like we talked about, questionable as far as some of the things it can do. But it is really cool. But is it $299 for the 11-inch? Really cool. Is it $350 for the 12.9? Really cool. I don't know. I tend to say no. What do you think, Warren?
it reminds me a lot of the Surface Studio, the Microsoft.
Yeah. Oh my God, that beast.
Yeah, that it's like a mini version of that thing that it kind of props up like that. It looks cool. I'm sure it's built well. I'm sure it types nicely and everything like that. I'm sure it's great. I'm not, for me, I'm not, that's not how I use my iPad. And if I did decide to, if I was going all in and I was using my iPad as my only computer, then this would be something I would get, but it's not. So it's my iPad's more of a consumption device anyways. But it looks great. It will go on sale. If you don't buy it right away, I guarantee it'll go on sale.
All
that stuff like that.
No, we'll find it for Christmas a little cheaper, maybe.
And Amazon's gonna, there's gonna be filled with knockoffs. I think at this point, once the trackpad, compared to an iPad using Bluetooth, I expect to see a lot of just iPad trackpad combos from Amazon from these no-name vendors, and see what comes out. But this will be nice.
And Guy, you say it looks freaking cool. But
it does look freaking cool.
I don't think you would buy it.
Quote unquote.
Well, I mean, not with the equipment that I currently have.
If you had the 2018 or the 2020.
You know what? I might. I don't want to be that guy, but right now I feel like I'm that guy. That keyboard, I mean, you look at it and, just put the demo to one side for a second that Federici did.
Right.
Just when as the camera was like panning around and you could see that it was just kind of floating there in air. It was just one of those, oh my God, I gotta have that. I want that so bad. What I'll probably end up doing once the stores are back open is going into an Apple store and taking a look at both the 11-inch and the 12.9 inch. I got a kind of question right now whether I still need a 12.9 inch. Some of the things that I use this device for beyond consumption is recording audio, is editing video, things along those lines. I mean, I don't take it in the same direction that Chuck has. What Chuck does with this thing is nothing short of amazing.
Yeah, right.
But what I do sometimes do is take video that I've taken off of my iPhone, transfer it via iCloud onto the iPad, and then use the bigger screen to do some editing. Same thing with recording podcasts. With so many interfaces now coming out with a USB-C output,
right?
Instead of using USB 2 for all since forever, you can take an audio interface from Behringer or any of the major companies and have it pumped directly into it without using Apple's camera connection kit, which always seemed kind of to me to be kind of an inelegant solution to begin with.
Right.
Other than if you wanted to charge it at the same time that you were bringing in audio. But there is so much that these devices can now do. And, we talked about this last night on Mac to the Future Go. See it on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
The fact that all the analysts talking about the Mac going to ARM, I think is pie in the sky. I don't think that's what's going to happen now.
Yeah.
I think the Mac is going to stay x86, and iOS and iPad OS are going to define not really the lower end of computer users, but a different kind of computer user. Still wanting to have the power, still wanting to be able to do the things that their so-called big brothers can do. And now with something like iPad Pros, even with the lower end iPads, you can just do all those things.
Yeah. Well, we don't get off track there because that's a whole other topic. But I'll have to say
one more
thing before we move.
Shocker.
Yeah. Well, one thing I will mention in the chat In the chat room and on the YouTubes, Marcus says, "But if it were a mic, sold."
Oh yeah, there'd be absolutely. It would already be on the way. I'd be like, "Where is it now? Come on, where the hell is it? I want it now."
All right, let's move on. I wanted to talk a little bit about iOS 13.4. The Goldmaster, of course, as we mentioned, is released both iOS and iPadOS. And we talked about a lot of the stuff. I just want to briefly go. I actually have the notes here to what was released. And then first thing, obviously, was the Mac mouse and trackpad support. And they did say that the Magic Mouse 2, Magic Trackpad, Magic Trackpad 2, and third-party Bluetooth, and it even supports USB. So if you really wanted to get crazy, you can get that adapter with the USB port on it, and you can plug a USB mouse in if you really wanted to. And as we talked about, the multi-touch gestures on all those devices we just talked about, as well as secondary click. You can do right click and swipe between pages. So really a full-out support on the iPad. On the iPhone, you would not do that. So there is no support at all for the iPhone, so there's no need for that. So just be aware of that, because that's why.
Well,
here is
also,
the exact reason.
The iPhone doesn't put out enough juice.
Yeah, that
out of their ports.
And it'd be silly. It'll be silly, and that is exactly the reason. One of the big reasons why there's iPadOS and iOS. So the Files app. iDrive folders are now shared through the Files app. Warren, have you tried doing that at all since you've had this?
Yeah, I did. It's
how did it go?
It's fine. Basically, it's on the share sheet. So you find something you want, and you hit the share sheet, and it says share via files or something like that. iCloud sharing.
Okay. And of course, it's important to have new memojis, including 9. Including silly stuff. I won't even talk about it. The Mail app, finally, we got the delete, move, reply, and compose a message are in line there now. It wasn't there before. We've talked about that. The App Store with Apple Arcade, they got some universal purchasing support across all devices. Blah, blah, blah. And of course, we talked about AR. And they did some updates to the keyboard. I'm not going to go through all this, but and of course, there was a lot of fixes. They had some bug fixes in here too. Fixes an issue with the camera where the viewfinder may appear as a black screen after you launch it. I actually have seen that before. So there were some bugs, nothing really notable as far as big bug fixes. So same thing in iOS 13.4 for the iPhone. The Files app is available, Memojis, Mail, and all the other stuff. CarPlay, they're now going to add third-party navigation app support for the CarPlay dashboard, which is awesome. I still want CarPlay so bad. I know you have it, the guy, right?
When I went to Florida a couple of weeks ago, I stood in line and waited an hour and a half to make sure I got a car that had CarPlay.
But you have one at home too, right?
I do. I got a Kia Soul that has CarPlay. I would not buy a car now that did not have CarPlay.
I agree. My next car will not, and it has to have CarPlay. There was going to be some updates for the app support for third-party navigation, which is great. It makes it even easier to do. And it also has in-call information will now appear in the CarPlay dashboard, which makes it a little convenient as well. And bug updates were in there as well. So anything you can say, Warren, you've been beta testing it since day one that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, nothing really changed between this in iOS, at least. Obviously, on iPadOS is a whole different story, but in this release, nothing on the phone has really changed too much. Next week, I'm looking forward to being on the same operating system as the rest of the world.
Oh, no, you're not. You'll be itching for the next. You'll be 13.5 will be out soon, and
13.
It'll last a day or two. Yeah, it'll last a day.
I couldn't resist. So let's talk a little bit. We've been talking about iOS 14 and some of the leaks that came out about that. 9to5 Mac was the one that really got to give them credit of being able to get some clues from the code that was out there to what's going to be out there, including like an iPhone 9 AirTags, which is those tile tags, and Apple also developing a new Apple TV remote, which is awesome. But they are looking at creating an augmented reality app for iOS, which would be for the iPhone, which would be interesting to see how that goes. And they're definitely seeing anything with that. Did you see that at all, Warren, with that?
Yeah, it has some code name, right? That it's basically it's a framework. Is that what it is too? The reality framework, and there's a code name for it. So, that's definitely where they're going with that.
And I'm excited about the home screen change where you'll have the list view option. That's awesome. I've wanted that forever because it's just such a nuisance to try to figure out where your apps are, and having them in a list is going to make it a lot easier to navigate. So I think that's going to be a huge. I'm sure that was
it's going to look a little bit like the watch list view, right? But supposedly the Siri suggestions are going to put the things up on the top of the list things that you want to do. So if it's in the morning, your podcast app might be on the top because it knows you listen to podcasts in the morning,
right?
Things like that.
Accessibility, there was some stuff in there. Don't need to get too deep into that. And then, you obviously we stick with the dates. Generally happens, but who knows the way everything's been going in this world when these dates will probably slide. But all indications is we'll hear about it at WWDC online in June, and then be beta testing it for a while until probably the fall, September, October. Of course, rumor they'll say right now iOS 13 is compatible with everything from the 11 series now all the way down to the SE. There's potential possibility that the SE and the 6S and 6S Plus drop off for the iPhone.
Oh, I mean, these are now
it would only make
5-year-old phones.
Right, exactly. So
the fact that they've offered support for phones, especially the SE, my God, that goes back to what, 2015, 2016?
Yeah, at least.
What Android phones are still being supported with the new version of anyone's OS that are that old?
Yeah. So, and then
of course it was weird. It seemed to slow down, but my battery lasted so much longer.
Yeah, surprise.
Sorry,
Rant. No, that's good.
Okay.
And then they're rumoring with CarPlay on iOS 14 that you'll actually have wallpapers and a deeper Apple Store integration in Maps, which is awesome. So Maps is getting more and more integrated. I'm itching to have this thing in my car. It's killing me.
Yeah. What does that even mean? Apple Store integration in Maps?
Probably you'd be able to, the ability to maybe to buy custom wallpapers. Let me see.
I think you can put a custom wallpaper on the home screen of the Mac.
On the home screen of Apple.
Of the CarPlay.
Of CarPlay, right.
Screen. Yeah.
Oh, I see. It says for the next major update, we'll be able to check availability of a Genius Bar services on your map. So, if you happen to be driving around and you need to get your iPhone fixed,
if you need to get your iPhone fixed, you don't have Apple CarPlay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not working. What do I do? I'll go to CarPlay. Well, no.
Anything else you think of with Warren with the iOS 14 that stood out for you?
I think that was mostly it from what they.
We'll keep talking about it. Yeah, we'll obviously keep talking about it and find out
more stuff
as we go here. So I had one tip, and it looks like I timed everything perfect here with the notes here for the show. So I found one tip here I wanted to talk about is. When you plug in your iPhone and you plug it into your Mac and you wanted to trust your computer because you're plugging it in, you want to either do a backup or you wanted to go through and copy files, whatever you're looking to do. So there's never been instructions on how to untrust your computer because maybe you're getting rid of the computer or you just don't want it to be set that way anymore. And the way you do it is you launch the settings from your Springboard there, and then you go into General from the Settings tab. And then you go all the way down into the Reset menu. And then in the Reset menu there's a setting there to reset location and privacy. From the Reset menu. That's the Reset menu. You've got to be really careful. Don't click Erase and content on all settings because that would be deadly.
Don't cross the streams.
Yeah, because that would be kind of extreme.
That will actually erase all content and settings, just like it says.
Erase it. So, and then at the very bottom there, you just reset location and privacy. So, which is nice because a lot of times that stuff you want to reset it back to the way it was, and you can go back and reset it back again. And what that does is it clears out any computer you had plugged into. You may have plugged in your computer and your iPhone into somebody else's computer that you needed to work with. So it's always good to clear that out. So then that computer will not be trusted again. Yeah, it's all trust.
But you could always retrust it again on the one that you want to retrust it on. So
it's all trust. It's all trust. So
it's a matter of trust.
It's a matter of trust.
I was wondering if you were going to go there.
I went. So before we wrap things up here, let's talk a little bit about MacStock. With everything going on right now with the pandemic, we're hoping that this show is going to go on. You go on to the website right now. It's 127 days away. It's one of the best conferences out there. We've had a blast. Guy and I have both been there all 5 years. This is year 6, and we still have to get Warren to come out. But he might have a good reason now because someone might be working in Chicago, so he might be in Chicago more frequently. So
I might not be able to leave the house. So.
That's right, depending on where we're at this point. So far, it's at July 25th, 26th, 2020. And they got a great deal on now. Guy, I'm sure you can tell us more about MacStock. What do you think?
MacStock is like the living embodiment of what the Macworld Expo kind of used to be. Again, not the expo part of it, but the camaraderie among the people that attended. Everyone is completely accessible. Everyone that does presentations is there to answer questions afterwards. I know I've had a podcasting set up out in the cafeteria pretty much every single year. I end up missing most of what's going on in the auditorium because I'm still setting up for almost the entire first day. But I get a lot of people that come over and ask me about the setup and how it works and how this does, and ask me questions about audio. Yep. And for better or for worse, I answer those questions just because that's what I like to do. And I'm not alone in that. You have all these other people that are there, and it's not like any of them are going to turn their back on you for free advice. It's a great show. And it all things considered, it is so inexpensive.
It is. They have they have a good deal right now. It's still the early bird special. It's out there. You click the register now. The 2-day pass, $189, includes 2 meals. It's and 2 full days of the show. So go ahead and register now. I know the hotels are already filling up. So, but again, who knows where we're going to be at in a couple months? We're hoping everything passes with the coronavirus, but we always look to potentially reschedule. And because I know Mike's very passionate about this show. Mike Potter, who's the coordinator and leader of this show, and you definitely want to check that out. So go to MacStockConferenceandExpo.com, click the button, register, just buy some tickets, and take advantage of that early bird price because it's originally $259. It's down to $189, so it's about $70 off the regular price. So check that out, and we would love to see you, and hopefully it happens. So. With that, let's wrap things up here. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios, or you can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, or better yet, just go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave G65, and you can find me on Twitter @DaveG65. And Guy, I forgot to have them tell you how they can find you, so we'll let you do that now and tell us about the MyMac.com.
So very, very easy. You can find me via the emails. I am Guy at mymac.com. I have 2 different Twitter accounts. I am Mac Pettit and also Vert Shark. I was waiting for it. Didn't hear it. Of course.
Your show.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I also do the mymac.com podcast pretty much every weekend with Gary Gazmaz Malpaz. We're coming up on show 800 pretty soon for the mymac.com podcast.
Nice.
And of course, on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am hosting the Mac to the Future Go podcast or live cast on the Facebooks in both my main page and also in the Mac to the Future group page, I guess you can call it. And Dave and Warren are co-hosts for that. We have a really, really good time, especially when I get frustrated because my software isn't working the way it's supposed to. And
Always
then
happens.
I start to curse and use really bad language. But other than that, it's a great time. We have a lot of fun. And that's it.
All right, Warren, and then you're quarantined in your home in an undisclosed location, right?
Pretty much, but if you find Guy or David, you'll probably find me somewhere. 'Cause that's where I hang around. So we'll be around. I'm not going anywhere.
Yep.
I'm not allowed. So there you go.
He's trapped.
I'm trapped.
All right, guys, this was a great show. I really appreciate you, Guy, you coming on. We had a lot of fun, and this was a great time. And Warren, you're the greatest as well. Appreciate you being on as the co-host here. So, all right, everybody.
For all of you, we all be going stir crazy.
Yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. So we hope you enjoyed the show, everybody. Thanks for listening, and talk to you again soon.